I recently went to a local pet supply store to buy dog food. None of the staff was wearing masks, and neither was a customer leaving the store. I asked the cashier why, and she replied that she had a mask she could put on if I wanted her to. I asked her if she knew that here in Maine it was a requirement because physical distancing was impossible at her cash register since her employer had provided no shield. She shrugged her shoulders and said that her manager had told her she didn't have to wear a mask if she didn't want to. I have been in a number of stores where people are either maskless or are wearing a mask incorrectly, most often pulled down under their nose. A lot of good that does if you sneeze, shooting virus particles out of your nose onto the person in front of you in the checkout line. I understand that the governor cannot adequately enforce her executive order, which leaves it up to us to self-enforce. But honestly, what will it take for us to realize the difference between license, nobody can tell me what to do, and our constitutional freedom? When will we really get that even though we live in a nation of rugged individualism, we will thrive only in community? I think wearing a mask and socially distancing are key to getting COVID under control and safely reopening the economy here in Maine. And so it got me wondering, as a pastor, what would I be preaching to my congregation if I were not recently retired? What themes would I dwell on? How would I answer the question, would Jesus wear a mask? First, I would remind my congregation that we are not in this pandemic alone. Though at times God may seem very far away, we need not feel hopeless. I would remind them how Jesus went off to a lonely place to be with God. I would tell them that we would more clearly sense God's presence if we intentionally tried to be present to God as Jesus was, by setting aside a regular time for prayer or meditation, a quiet walk, or writing in a gratitude journal. Whatever it takes to get us out of our heads long enough to experience serenity and to let God into our hearts, there to blow on the embers of love residing there. I would tell my congregation to figure out not only how to be present to God, but also how to be present to one another. I would remind them of the story of how a little boy shared his meager lunch and it fed 5,000 people. How Jesus constantly reached out to the poor and healed the sick, and how he commissioned his followers, which would be us, to do the same. Be swift to love, make haste to be kind, as Henri Frederick Amiel said. I would tell my congregation that Jesus was no lone ranger. He understood the crucial importance of community and taught his disciples that a house divided against itself will inevitably fall. I would tell them that the first Christians lived in caring and compassionate groups and not as individuals. I would tell my congregation that wearing masks and social distancing is the least we can do to be like Jesus, whatever our age or political leanings. Doing so is a sign that our hearts' embers of love have been ignited. It is a symbol that we are committed to being present to one another. It is a recognition that we value community over rugged individualism, kindness over license. That's what I would tell my congregation. And in answer to that nagging question, I would tell them that a future where the economy is more important than the well-being of our fellow humans is no future at all. And so, yes, I believe that undoubtedly Jesus would wear a mask.